I'm Ray Gervin, the publisher and owner of International Bulk Journal. Welcome to our webinar, which will this time focus on dry bulk ship owners, operators, and managers. The COVID-19 pandemic has been with us since March and created challenges never known before for the bulk shipping business. And now, even with the good news of discoveries of vaccines, many of these challenges still remain. IBJ has a history of bringing the industry together with our magazine, e-newsletter, website, and of course the IBJ Awards, which were sadly postponed earlier this month. Even though the awards dinner was postponed, we've still managed to bring the world together virtually with these webinars, and I think today we have an excellent panel, and I'd like to thank them all collectively for giving up some of their valuable time to participate. Thank you to our sponsors, to Sonalia, Telestack, North Sea Port, Brooks Hotel, FedNav, and Fleet Management. The webinar will be 90 minutes long, and halfway through we'll be hearing some messages from our sponsors, some videos. And thank you to everybody who's registered to view once again worldwide. We've had another great response, and thank you for sending in so many questions, which we will get to in the second half of the webinar. And so to our panelists today, Captain Bjorn Højgaard is the Chief Executive Officer of Anglo-Eastern Ship Management based in Hong Kong. Anglo-Eastern is a leading global provider of ship management services, serving clients for over 40 years. They have 25 offices worldwide with over 600 vessels under full third-party ship management, including 300 bulk carriers. Jens von Heusen is with us, the joint founder and managing partner of Hamburg Bulk Carriers, which were founded in 1999 as a bulk vessel operator for key minor bulk cargoes, and is now operating and managing in one of the most modern bulk fleet carriers within the handy up to the Supra Ultramax segment. Welcome to Mats Berglund, the Chief Executive Officer of Pacific Basin Shipping. Pacific Basin is a world leading owner and operator of modern handy-size and Supramax dry bulk ships with a total fleet of 268 vessels, 116 of which are owned, with 67 million tons of cargo carried during 2019. Guglielmo Tersalvi is the Operations Director of Shield Services. Shield Services provide management and consultancy on onshore and offshore bulk logistics and shipping markets, with specializing in complex logistic projects and the operation of transshipment vessels and bulk handling equipment. And we have Christian Wittner Christiansen, the head of dry operator from Norden in Denmark. Norden operates in dry cargo and tanker trades. The dry operator business unit serves customers with logistical optimization of vessels and cargoes. 93.95 million tons were transported in the past year, with over 2,500 voyages on 223 operated vessels. We have apologies, unfortunately, for those of you tuning in and looking forward to hearing Captain Rajesh Uni, the founder of and Chief Executive Officer of Synergy Maritime. He has a family problem and just can't make it today. Okay, so that's our panel, and here we go. I'm going to ask each of them to speak for just a minute or so to introduce themselves and tell us where they are right now, really, with the pandemic. Bjorn, over to you first.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you for having me, and hello, everyone. As Ray said, my name is Bjorn Højgaard, and I am the CEO of Anglo-Eastern Ship Management. I'm in Hong Kong, where I've been since February this year, which was the last time I was in an airplane. It's been a challenging year for a ship manager. Crew change has been front and center, and although we by today have managed to move 30,000 people across our company in the last 9 months, it has been a struggle. It's been difficult, and it's also been expensive. But the wheels are turning. Things are moving. Lots of restrictions remain on the ground, and we still have to go through hoops to get things done in the crew change business. And that's not really acceptable. It's not acceptable from a humanitarian viewpoint. I mean, people on board ships have commitments and lives like the rest of us, and they need to know when they can be home for that. Secondly, the supply chain that is shipping, on which all of us rely, is too important to leave to chance. So we must make sure that we can uphold the integrity of the supply chain. And thirdly, if we don't solve this, then how are we going to attract talent to go on board ships in the future? That's a real concern for me. We need to make sure that young people still want to go to sea in the years ahead. So a difficult year, but we see some lights at the end of the tunnel, especially with the vaccine coming up. And I look forward to joining the panel here today and talk about these challenges with you all.
Okay, thanks, Bjorn. Jens, over to you for your opening statement.
Yeah, hi there, everybody. Ray, thanks for having me. Welcome to the crowd. My name is Jens von Husen. I'm the managing partner of HPC. I mean, as Ray said, we are running a very modern fleet, but modern in these days is obviously one aspect in bike shipping. The other aspect is that we have to find ways to work around the pandemic, and we are a very streamlined organization. We have in-house 30 people, and we have our technique out of India, and all the departments are linked with each other and trying to optimize to work the way around the pandemic. I mean, we are trying really to, with every department, to come up with new solutions, ideas, in order to not being affected too much by the pandemic. It is a challenge for all of us, and well, fortunately, we have a lot of technical tools to do that, but still, I think the way forward doesn't go without human, and it doesn't go without, let's say, personal meetings. And as such, I hope that sooner or later, or let's say within the first quarter, I mean, we can also freely travel again and address the, let's say, challenges we have to deal with in the future. Thank you.
Okay, good. Mats Berglund, your opening statement, please. Hello, Mats, can you hear me? Mats? Oh, okay. While we're waiting for Mats to get back on, Guglielmo, over to you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hello, Ray, my fellow panelists, and the audience. Thank you, Ray, for this invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here. So my name is Guglielmo Tersalvi, Operations Director of Shield Services. We are specialized, as you already said, in the logistics of materials, and we operate in the logistic chain at each level, handling a full range of dry bulk. At the present time, we operate mainly in West Africa for bauxite and with coal in Indonesia. We provide design, simulations, calculations for the development and then operations of the logistic chain. But for sure, the crew management of various transshippers is a big portion of our activity. So in this pandemic, we saw a lot of conditions that put us. We needed to put a lot of efforts in make everything running smooth and continue guarantee the performance that our clients was asking. So we tried to keep the performance stable, even with a lot of effort from our team, the crew, and the cooperation of everyone.
Good. So, okay. Thank you, Guglielmo. And still, while we're waiting for Mats, I think we go over to Christian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christian Christensen, and I'm heading the dry operator within Norton. First of all, my deepest sympathy for the many families out there who have lost loved ones to the disease, of course. Secondly, a heartfelt thank you to the many seafarers who makes this wheel running and are essential to keeping the global supply chains running. COVID-19 in combination with political factors have made 2020 a very interesting year for not only our industry, but certainly also our company. Added volatility and also a true test of how companies adapt to extremes, actually. And I think it's also a true test of not only us as leaders, but also our entire business models. I think it's been healthy. I think we'll talk more about that during this seminar. But most importantly, I think the COVID-19 have amplified, did we actually manage to, you can say, create, capture, and deliver the value to our clients? And that's being cargo charters, ship owners, and our brokers, and many of you are listening here. I think that's a big question we ask ourselves even more frequently now after COVID-19. So hopefully we do something right. We have actually operate 330 ships today, and there's plenty of business out there. And I think the business or the market has shown, at least from a market perspective, has shown an extreme resilience in these times. So,
yeah, good. That's good to hear. There's plenty of business out there. Mats, are you there?
You hear me now, Ray?
Yes, I can hear you, and we can see you. Okay.
Very good.
That's very good time.
Thank you.
Over to you for your opening remarks.
Thank you. So Pacific Basin, Handysize and Supra Ultra owner operator, as the others have said, it's been a tough year, right? But thanks to the loyalty of our crew, we've been able to keep things going, and also all our officers have been working from home, and we're happy to have been able to provide a pretty much seamless service to our customers. Market-wise, it actually could have been worse. And, you know, China is back fully. And, you know, grain has been very solid throughout the year. And with vaccines and stimulus packages on the way, we hope that in the rest of the world, demand will also come back before long. So cautiously optimistic, and we do have a strong balance sheet and continuing to buy ships. And we announced the acquisition of 4 ships on Friday. So I look forward to talk more here today.
Okay, well, I think we therefore have to make the first question on something that everybody has brought up there, and the crew, as I say, the backbone of the industry, and the crew change crisis, and how those continuing problems are now being addressed. When I first started asking people about this earlier in the year, the figure I was quoting of crew stranded on board ships was 300,000, but now that figure's 400,000. So yeah, over to you to tell us where you know how those problems are continuing to be addressed, but maybe also some consideration to the fact that there's a vaccine on the way, or more than one vaccine, and through this, seafarers have not really been classed as key workers, and now maybe is the time for a push on that, so that we can do right by them this time. So Bjorn, I'll go back to you first for this one.
Thanks again, Ray. Yeah, I mean, so where are we with this? Even in the best of time, crew rotation is a bit of a logistical nightmare. You got to find the right person for the right ship at the right time. It's not just putting square pegs into round holes, right? I mean, it's really something that takes quite some planning and preparation to get crew change right. Now, since this lockdown from COVID-19 has affected different parts of the world to a different degree, we found ways to cope with most of it, but it's still very, very difficult on the ground. I mean, as of today in Hong Kong, where I'm sitting, you can only do crew change if the ship is doing cargo operations. In China, you can only do crew change if the crew is Chinese. In Korea, the crew has to be, 2 weeks in quarantine before, the unsigners before coming on board the ship. In Japan, the ship has to be at sea for 2 weeks before you can do crew change. In Singapore, well, it may be a little bit different now, but it used to be you could only do crew change if it was on a Singapore flag ship, and so on and so forth, right? And the reality is that today crew change starts for us 21 days before the on-signers leave. That's when they get the first test, the first PCR test. Then 10 days before they get the second PCR test and goes into quarantine. And within 48 hours of departure, they gotta get a third PCR test before they leave for the ship. Now, if any of those tests are positive, then you're back to start, right? Then you have to go again. So someone who has been planned for 21 days and to go to a ship somewhere, and he tests positive in the last test, well, that means that the guy on board who has been waiting for the last 3 weeks, knowing that that colleague would come and replace him, he is now also back to start, right? He said, well, it's going to take at least a month to line somebody else up to go through the same process. So it's extremely difficult and very costly. Now, I've always, in the last year, I've been advocating this key worker status, and it hasn't been too successful. Most government, unfortunately, seem to think that this is not in my backyard. You can, we'd like to receive your ships. We'd like your goods and your energy, your clothing, your electronics, your raw materials. You're welcome here, but crew change, you can do in next port, right? So it's this beggar thy neighbor policy that's been driving these difficulties. Now, I really hope that governments will recognize, now that the vaccines are coming, that seafarers are key workers and they need to be first in line for these vaccines, so that they really can resume this crew rotation and we can get people home in accordance with their contract. So that's what I have to say about that for the moment.
Matt, what's your take on this? I mean, Bjorn has just described something very disjointed there in terms of how governments have different aspects on this, and it all really needs bringing together. So, Matt.
Oh, it's very challenging, right? And especially for Chinese seafarers, probably the nationality that's been toughest to get both on and off the ships. Also, I'd like to highlight it's not only the guys on board that are suffering by being there long, it's also people that are prevented from making money, right? They can't get out on the ships. They want to, but they can't. And Philippines was shut down for a long time. I think what we are focusing on is really communicating, talking to the ships all the time, just making sure and informing them what we're doing, that we're trying, what's coming, and just really making sure that they know what we know, rather than them going there not knowing what's going to happen next, so to speak. But it's a really challenging situation. It has been slowly but surely getting a little bit better, but still extremely challenging.
Good. Okay. Jens, I'll come to you next. So yeah, I mean, specifically, how have Hamburg bulk carriers been addressing these problems, but also, what can be done? What kind of pressure can be brought to bear through the likes of the IMO and other bodies to push key worker status for our seafarers? Jens. Sorry. Jens.
Yeah, I think Björn and Mats are right. I mean, we in the shipping industry have been left a little bit alone, and the governments should have been a little bit more supportive when it comes to crew changes. I mean, we need the assistance also from the local authorities in order to make crew changes possible. The crew has been suffering on board quite badly, and what we did is, I mean, we are a very small entity in comparison to my fellow competitors, Norden and Pac Basin. And we tried to really connect all the departments, i.e. the operation, the chartering. I mean, everybody was involved to keep the scheduling of the ships as efficient as possible to manage the crew changes. And well, fortunately, we did not have to charter planes or go to other extremes to make crew changes possible. And whenever we did not manage on time, so the crew was a little bit longer on board, we tried to come up with ship-to-shore connect. So the people could talk to their families, the people were not left alone. We tried to give as much as support to the crew, to the families, to everybody who was involved in the chain, to make life not as miserable as as it could have been. So we trying really to give everybody a hand, and as I said, through the a small organization which we are presenting, I mean, we have the possibility to really talk to everybody, which obviously, if you have 300 ships, I mean, it is quite a challenge.
Yeah, sure. Good. I'll come to Christian now. What's the aspect, the take from Norden?
It's very much. I think it's been said by both Bjørn, Jens, and Mats. We have done all we could, and we have left a lot of. We have Uni and Synergy, our technical partners, so they are doing this on behalf of us, you can say. But we have arranged some crew change in SCORE and worked with the government, but it's very complex. It's extremely complex, and it's obviously a big challenge for the industry going forward. So we are also advocating that the vaccine should be for the seafarers as soon as possible, of course.
Great. Okay. Guillermo, for somebody operating specialist vessels as you do, over to you.
Yeah. I go back to what you were asking about the vaccine. So a seafarer has not been indicated as categories to be protected first, which I think this is an error, because shipping is the backbone of our economies and the global markets and so on. So yes, for sure, IMO and organizations and governments should raise their hands and indicate that the seafarers should be, protected as soon as possible. And also because the situation cannot be any longer on shipping companies and crew shoulders. So far on our ships, we increase the communication as much as possible and the coordination between all our teams to ensure, let's say, all the crew changes. So far, we completed 100% of the crew changes. But crew change, it's already a challenging operation. In these times was even worse. But it's just a way of method. So it's a little bit more challenging, but we succeeded in this.
Good. Okay. Thank you. I'll move on to the next question, which is kind of related, and I'll start with you, Christian, this time. What's been the knock-on effect of all of that in terms of the crew change crisis onto seafarer well-being, including mental health and onboard safety? I mean, and how are those issues being addressed? Bjørn just described a situation where crew are not being replaced because somebody else is not able to come because they're tested positive, which means their contract extended, they're longer on board, and they're absolutely exhausted, and that's has an impact on safety, of course.
We have been very fortunate so far. I don't think we have experienced any, let's say, incidents or accidents because of this, but it has to be a matter of time. And I'm sure that Bjørn, who are handling 300 ships from technical managers and crew managers, they have seen some incidents. So not yet, but it will come, and maybe we haven't seen these small incidents that have been there. But of course, it's a tragedy. It's a human tragedy in many ways. I mean, we know. I think everybody listening in here, we have all been through our COVID-19 fatigues, and we feel a little bit sorry for ourselves sometimes. But I mean, can you imagine being on board a ship where you haven't seen your family and your family members dying? So actually, I think it's difficult for us to actually understand how tragic it is for the people on board.
Yeah,
so.
Sure. Bjorn, I should come to you then. You just referenced you there, and you know how you've been addressing this issue of seafarer well-being.
Well, having sailed myself, I can tell you that it's not the duration that you are on board that's difficult. It's not knowing when you will be relieved. That's really what creates the anxiety and the stress for the individuals. So communication obviously is very key to make sure people understand what is being done and what the plans are. But even the best plans, as I said before, sometimes have to change, and then you have to manage the fallout of those changes as well. As I said, since 1st of April, we have done 31,000 crew movements across 650 ships. But we still have about 24 people on about a handful of ships, 5 ships, where people have been on board for more than 11 months, which is the maximum under the Maritime Labour Convention. And the reasons are simply that these ships have been between ports where it's not been allowed to do crew change, and it's not been possible to arrange deviations even. I fear that for the big companies who have the resources and the wherewithal across the world to actually get things done, we manage quite all right. And my real fear is that there are probably, as you said, 400,000 people out there on companies which don't have the resources to make this happen. I think that across 650 ships, we probably spent an additional $20 million in crew change this year. So it's not small beer as well. It's a lot of money that goes into this. And okay, that has to be seen in the context of a budget of more than $1 billion for these ships on an annual basis. But it is about committing to making it happen and then seeing it through despite the difficulties. Now, many smaller companies, they will not be able to do that. And that's why you have many people hanging out there. I think that it does have an impact. I'm not sure it does have a big impact in terms of accidents, but it will have an impact in terms of retention and recruitment going forward, which really worries me. Like, how are we going to get the young people to fill up the pipeline for our officers of the future if they see that if you go to sea, you can't be counted on to be helped by the world's governments and public, right? I mean, you serve a very important need of all of us, and yet you're left out there to dry for months on end, and that really worries me.
Yeah, true. 90% of world trade moves by sea. So Matt, over to you on that seafarer well-being issue.
I would maybe just lift the leadership aspect here, right? We as leaders, both in the office and on the ships, really have to step up and work hard to keep the spirits high in the team, whatever way you can do that, right? With some more frequent social interaction, with caring a bit extra for people, asking how people feel and how they're doing, come up with all kinds of ways to get the mind off the frustration of being on board too long, right? Whether it's competitions of sorts or photo competitions or baking competitions or physical activities, and it's really time to shine for the leaders on board, but it's obviously tough, and we need to coach them. So that's what I would lift up in this context. Yeah,
sure. Guillermo, you're obviously operating a much smaller fleet, but specialist. I mean, are there any particular sort of seafarer well-being issues common to your company?
This well-being and mental fatigue health touches a very important aspect of this pandemic, because at the beginning we tried to isolate as much as possible our vessels to ensure the virus couldn't come on board. So, and we made it in an excellent way. So they were completely sealed. So this was fine for the pandemic point of view, for the virus point of view. But isolation for the human being is not the best condition. So we tried to reduce on board our ships the isolation feeling. Communication is the first thing. So trying to communicate with them as much as possible, give them the possibility and opportunity to communicate with their beloved, with their families, their kids, receiving and sending pictures and videos. So the feedback we had already from this was excellent. So then, okay, sure, we try to send them, ask them to put on a list something that they would love to have on board from their homes or from their hometown, their country, and we succeeded in sending on board a couple of boxes. So the feedback was excellent, and thank you also to the great cooperation we had with ship owners. Regarding the safety, what we tried to do was to reduce the mental fatigue and the stress, and then raise also our safety standard, because it was not in West Africa, even in Kalimantan, the best moment to go to the hospital. So we knew that, and so we pretty succeeded, and we were able to keep the highest safety standard on all our managed ships.
Yeah, thank you, Guillermo. And Jens, yeah, do you have any seafarers trapped at the moment on board vessels, and how have you been handling the whole issue of well-being?
Well, most of it has already been said. I mean, what we did on top of what all the other gentlemen just explained, I mean, we did also reach out to the seafarers' families, and we not only connected them to the ship, but we also connected them to top management. So at any given time, when also a family member ashore felt that their family member on the vessel was not in well-being or good health, mental health, I mean, then he had also, the family had also the possibility to reach out to top management. And then we took measures in case, I mean, we felt that that guy needed a break. And as I said, I mean, then we tried to schedule the ships into ports where crew change was possible. But let me say one other thing. I mean, I think, and Björn said that very well. I mean, we were left a little bit alone with all the work and with all the problems. And I think the governments and also sometimes port authorities could have been of more help to solve these issues. And I think maybe it's a little bit going away from the agenda, but I think we also need to change a little bit the public perception of shipping. I mean, we need to make sure that, as you said, Ray, I mean, we are transporting 90% of the goods. Without us, the planet would not move. I mean, we would all, have to focus more on microeconomic aspects than we are doing right now on macroeconomic aspects. And I think there's also a job to be done by all of us, including IMO and all the other regulators we are having. I mean, we need to change a little bit the perception of shipping, but we might come to that a little bit later. But I think that is a very important aspect for the future.
No, it's good to bring that up. I feel like on IBJ we've been doing our bit in what we report, but of course we're preaching to the converted. It's the wider world we need to get to, and shipping as a whole, and BIMCO and Intercargo and everyone needs to. Look, we've got a a new administration, a Biden administration about to take over in the USA. We need to get, more influence in places like that, I believe. But I wanted to start with those issues because I think that they have to be at the top of the list when we're talking about COVID. But we do need to move on to some others and how the market has been and the financial issues and what has been the impact of all of this. Because good and bad, I know some people have had great years. And what has been the impact on the bulk shipping market in the short and the long term. So maybe Jens, I was last to you before, so you can start with this one.
Yeah, I mean, what has been the biggest problems for us, at least, I mean, was the daily changing regulations. I mean, we no matter to which port we were trading, no matter which cargo we were carrying, I mean, there was always a daily change in the regulations, and i.e. it was very difficult to adapt. Anyhow, I mean, what you needed to do is obviously you needed to, let's say, trade your vessels and to find solutions. We managed that, and except for a couple of days waiting time because a crew member had been tested positively, I mean, we worked around it quite well. The markets in general were, well, except for the first half of the year, I think were a little bit dull, but due to all the stimulus packages which the world has been launching, markets recovered quite nicely as of mid of the year, and I think we have no reason to complain. The ships are trading quite nicely, and well, as I said, I mean, we have adapted to the situation. We are talking internally a lot. It's a day-to-day job, and it's a day-to-day challenge. But shipping has always been a challenge. Life has been a challenge, and we are here to take that challenge. And although I mean we are all talking a little bit, or we are finding let's say solutions on Zoom, Teams, but it will still remain also a personal business, and it requires personal help in order to get through these challenging times, and we are trying best possible to do that.
Yeah. Yes, it's often challenging times in the bulk shipping market. Never mind a pandemic. So, Mats, I mean, what's how Pacific Basin been doing, and your view in the market in general?
Yeah, I like Jens' comment in the first half that the market was dull. It was actually a 50-year low.
Yes.
So it was more than dull to me, but anyway. But again, it's come back strongly since, right? China came back already in the second quarter, but the rest of the world was extremely weak, right? But overall for the year, it hasn't been that bad, and it could have been a lot worse, as I mentioned before. Again, grain very strong. I think we have grain up 9% year on year, which is amazing, right? People need to eat in spite of the pandemic, and the swine fever in China is receding. So China is importing a lot of soybean again, including from US, which is very encouraging. So very strong US grain exports recently. Iron ore has also been strong, although we're not carrying that much iron ore. Minor bulk is back strong in recent months, although it was down. Construction material was down a lot in the first half, but strong recently. And coal is the biggest negative, which is maybe down 10% or so. India and Europe was down a lot. Coal volumes have come back. India in particular has come back, since. But encouraging recently. Again, we are back into profitable territory for market rates against owned ships, which is good. And again, with the rest of the world hopefully coming back, also helped by vaccines and stimulus eventually, the supply side is finally coming down. We have to remain disciplined and not order new buildings. But again, we are fairly optimistic about the future market-wise.
Good. Guillermo, yeah, it's not just the pandemic, of course, is it, that's affecting how the market has been? And Matt's just mentioned there, you know, grain is up, but the likes of coal is down, which I know you're involved in Indonesia. So how has the year been for you?
Yeah, if we see in the Indonesian core industry, is that the production slowed down and has been reduced. China demand was limited. India was relying on their stockpiles. So for sure, the coal production and then shipping is following is let's say conservative, 10%, 20% less of the production, which affected the market, our clients, and ourselves also. For what is concerning our business in West Africa, bauxite, no, we didn't. We kept the plans, so the handled tons were exactly as per plan. So this particular situation is, you know, our clients that maybe were focusing on coal market, local coal market, Indonesian. So they start to changing their strategies, exploring new commodities, alternative business, you know, for diversification of the business, of the revenues, seeking for stability. So we are there is a good opportunity for both for our clients and us, because you know. Yeah, new businesses, new opportunities, despite the global situation is a little troublesome. But yes, this in the short and medium period. If you ask for the long term, I don't know. I really don't know. This is a pandemic, so it's global and it's pretty new. So there is no one has experience actually in this. What will be? We had 9/11. We had the crisis in 2008. So we have to be careful again. I think keep our eyes open and for sure be ready to move fast again.
Good. Okay, thank you. And Christian, what is the view from Nimble Norden?
Exactly, that was a good word, Nimble Norden. I'll write that up. That was a good tagline.
It was one of my headlines earlier this year after I interviewed Jan Ringo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, I just want to echo Jens. I mean, there's been some short-term challenges, of course, but I think also what Jens was saying, we adapt. Actually, I think that's the essence of what dry operators do, adapt actually. And our industry, because of free competition, I think we have a brilliant way of sorting out different challenges if we look away from the personal tragedies on board the ships. But otherwise, actually long term, I think it's quite, it could be very positive. I don't see any negative long-term effects of COVID-19. I also think the market this year, yes, it was dull first half, but it actually behaved kind of normal seasonally on a different level, but it kind of behaved more normal than we expected. And then hopefully when countries stop printing helicopter money and start to do infrastructure projects instead, then it will be good news for dry cargo. I think actually, and hopefully it will be green projects. Either way, I think it's very good for dry bulk in the coming years. It could be.
Good. Okay. And finally to Bjorn on this one before we go to our commercial break. Bjorn?
Well, I think that the key takeaway from the year is how resilient shipping has been, really. I mean, we've got lots to be grateful for being in shipping. There are so many industries that have been, you know, decimated this year. I mean, tourism, hospitality businesses, the airline industry, the cruise shipping industry. A number of businesses are going to take years to build themselves back up, and shipping overall has been really remarkably resilient, even in the first half of the year, where you had some economies dropping by 20+% GDP quarter on quarter. There was still a little bit to do in shipping, and we came back remarkably quickly. For ship managers, I mean, we can see that the S&P activities for the year have been much less than they used to be. there's much less churn in the fleet than previous year, especially in the first half of this year. And of course, new building activities are at an all-time low, which in terms of markets actually bodes well for the future. It's never the demand side that fails shipping in the long run. It's always the supply side. So maybe there's a good future ahead for all of us.
Good. Okay, that's a positive note before the break, which we're going to do now. So I'd like to thank our sponsors again, because a film from each of them is just coming up, to Sonalia, Telestack, North Seaport, FedNav, Brookservitel, and Fleet Management. Don't go away, anybody. Watch these messages from our sponsors. They're really good. And we'll be back in around about 5 minutes.
The world is a beautiful place. We know. We've seen a lot of it. But it is also getting more and more complex every day. It's our mission to make it simpler with new technology, fresh ideas, and proven expertise, which create a seamless shipping and cargo handling experience for our customers. We never do things the easy way. We do them the right way. The right way for you, and the right way for our planet. From the Great Lakes to the Arctic and seas beyond. We always deliver a higher standard. FedNav. The world is complex. We navigate it.
You hear that? That's the sound of progress. 25 years of the absolute best. Shipping? Well, yes, but so much more. We are planners, builders, fixers, both off and onshore. 20,000 strong. Sailing 1% of the world's containers, 2% of commodities. Not just on time, but with the highest levels of safety. And don't forget sustainability. Every route we map is carefully drawn, crisscrossing the globe dawn to dawn. So while they cheer and give awards, we are focused on our mission. What's that? You want to know why we do what we do? We believe in always striving for better and having a smile on your faces. We don't just manage ships, we support people in all sorts of places. We pioneer, invent, and break new ice. Because when you grow, we grow. Organically, together, to new heights. That's the Fleet Way.
Hello and welcome back everybody to the second half of our webinar. Hello. We've got a lot to crack on with, so I'll start with the first question straight away on how the pandemic has affected challenges faced by shipping in accelerating the rollout of digitalization. Thinking not just about onboard ship and repair issues and drones for inspections, all of that side of it, but also with your shore-based people as well, and with so many people working from home. So over to Mats first.
Thank you. Well, I would say first, I would hope that it can lead to safety improvements, right? That we can use the technology to prevent incidents before they happen. Secondly, I hope and believe it will lead to some gradual automation, not necessarily super quickly and so on, but some efficiencies there to be had, both on board and shore side, with processing shore side of kind of monotonous, boring, jobs. Commercially, I think it will lead to more transparency, less secrets commercially, with vessel data and cargo data and commodity data. It's tougher and tougher to kind of be the only one who sees something. So those are some of the observations that we see. We don't think there's any specific challenges in it. It is coming, but again, I would highlight the safety benefit as maybe the most valuable one. Yeah.
Okay. Guillermo, same question to you on digitalization and how's it progressing within Shield Services?
Well, Ray, the transition to the digitalization is a process that started years ago and is not yet completed. For sure, classification societies, for example, played an important role in this transition to digitalization. If you think that now we can do statutory and class service through live streaming remote technologies, you mentioned the drones, and so on. So the companies and ships that were already equipped with good communication and good tools were able to proceed in this way. So I would say there is no more excuse to delay this process. So let's say that companies that they were fully digitalized before the pandemic, they found an extraordinary advantage, both on ship, on shore office, and so on. Companies that were into this process now, yes, they face maybe a little bit of delay. We are at the present time in the process with one of our clients. And yes, we are still keeping the schedule with a slight delay. And the companies that were not keen to digitalize, I think now they may and should have changed their minds. apart from that, you know, to complete and start and complete this process, you need some money, you need time, and you need the people into your organization, you know, to set up all the processes and so on. So this is a challenge. So especially by setting the priorities in the next. In the short term, we talked about finance, we talked about the markets, and so on. So I would say that yes, the digitalization as a tool cannot be delayed anymore, even because it's giving a great support. Without some tools, some technological tools for us, the life in the past 10 months would be very, very, very tough.
Good. Okay. Christian, same question to you, Norden.
Yeah, it's a big. It's one of our most important strategic tracks, actually, digitalization. And I don't think that we in shipping are faced with more challenges than other industries, but I just think that we are hopelessly behind. I'm mostly talking from a commercial and trading point of view, but there's a lot of work in front of us. As Guillermo was saying, it really has to come from the board level. It has to come from the ownership level. And there, I do think that we as an industry, a lot of different owners are quite old-fashioned, because their game is the asset play, and you don't need so much digitalization to do a good asset play. But for service providers like ourselves, we don't have a choice. And margins are becoming slimmer, and this ability to make better decisions based on data and based on facts instead of just pure gut feeling, that will determine actually who will make it or not in the future, I think. So, but it's and for a lot of the listeners here who are cargo clients, a lot of their industries have already transformed, and I think that we as an industry, as service providers, we need to plug into that digital transformation. So yeah, at least I don't see we have a choice. We are in Norden, we're in the middle of it, and just believe me, it's a lot of manual hard work actually to clean the data and to align the data, and then comes this whole cultural change, which will take years actually. It's a transition from board to floor, but it's super important, at least for us.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Jens. How's this year affected the actual rollout of digitalization? With the pandemic being around, has it helped or hindered?
Well, firstly, let me get back to Christian's message. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we have, as you know, I mean, when we invested into our ships, I mean, we put a lot of let's say making on the vessels, which was sensors and everything, so we could remotely read into the maker systems. And but I still think, and this is what Björn said, is that if we put too much digitalization on the ships and only have the crew, you know, checking programs and, you know, only work on the computer, the crew still needs to have challenges on board. And I think we shouldn't take away the valuable work of seafarers on the ship. If we do that, I think we will have a problem. I mean, then we can also run shipping with a joystick. Yeah, and I think that would be not good. Chartering wise, as Christian said, I mean, you know, there's more and more data coming to the market every day. I mean, it's a challenge to actually focus on every message, on every data you be receiving day by day or second by second. And there's more and more charterers going to platforms. I mean, there's no more niche business for small players like us. I mean, there used to be always a little bit of a personal relationship with a charterer. That is more and more going out of the business. We have today platforms like ShipFix. I mean, they indicate you how the grain supply in the US Gulf will be likely working over the next couple of weeks, months, and then you can, make your conclusion out of these data which you receive by Shipfax or any other people. I mean, I think to me, shipping has always been also a little bit of a stomach business, and digitalization we cannot stop. But I'm still value the human factor and the personal part of the business, and I think we have to watch it in today's world, that this aspect and this component doesn't get completely lost.
Okay, thank you. Bjorn, and the same question to you, and with the view of managing such a large fleet.
Yeah, there's the old saying that you never waste a good crisis, or necessity is the mother of invention, right? And in that sense, I think COVID-19 has only been a catalyst for accelerating the digitalization that's happening. I mean, what this pandemic has shown us is that you need to be able to do everything everywhere at any time, right? And nothing lends itself better to that integrated platform agnostic cloud-based tools, right? So getting to a place where there's absolute transparency between ships and shore, between the management office and client offices, where we all act on the same reality at the same time because we have all the information, is more and more important. So I only see that the last year has underscored the imperative of the digitalization journey. And we talked a little bit about this before we went live, and that was the fact that in the next couple of years, communication is going to be revolutionized. I mean, we've seen the VSATs over the last 20 years giving us some communication tools, but it's really still extremely slow, extremely expensive to communicate with ships. In the next couple of years, you will have companies like Starlink that's going to deploy 12,000 low Earth orbiting satellites, which will make true broadband speeds available and affordable at sea. And that's going to be a game changer. So building the platform that's ready to take advantage of that environment, that started years ago, and that continues. And COVID-19 has only shown how important it is. So I think it's been an accelerator, and overall people appreciate better today the need for this journey than they did a year ago.
Okay, yeah. This is a massive subject. I mean, it's the subject of a webinar in itself, but we're trying to cover a lot. And on to the next question, Jens. How can the industry ensure the transition to a green shipping future doesn't slow down?
That's a good one, Ray. Let me answer like that. I mean, I have been a little bit disappointed when we had IMO 2020 new regulations, and there was a big chance that everybody was actually being obliged to burn the low sulfur fuel, but instead, I mean, IMO also gave an opportunity to install scrubbers on the ships, which I think it's an intermediate solution, and it wasn't actually, something which lead us to target. I think we all have a responsibility, and shipping, as I said earlier, needs to change a little bit the perception and the public perception. And I think what we need to do in the future is also to show our willingness by maybe also having technology on board of the ships, which helps to clean the ocean, for example. I mean, I've just been brainstorming a little project with my technical guys on how we could likely, whilst trading, filter out the microplastics from the water, because we are pumping a lot of water through our cooling systems, as you all know. I mean, we have, and this is also a little bit linked for a smaller company like ours. I mean, shipping in today's market, if you want to grow your fleet, you also have to, come up with innovation, a little bit thinking out of the box, because otherwise you will also not, as a small company, being given the right finance to renew the fleet, which is definitely needed. We all know that we are sitting on an old fleet which needs replacement. Hopefully not that soon, because we are all longing for good markets, which we haven't seen for a long time. But talking future, I mean, we definitely need to renew the fleet, and I think this should only do if we have a clear instructions and a clear picture of what we want to build, and that picture also will surely be impacted by IMO.
Okay, yeah. Same question to Mats, and with reference to this year, whether it's helped or hindered the aims, for example, to get to a zero carbon industry by 2050.
I just don't think there's any slowdown in any situation as regards to the world getting green and shipping getting green. It's going to happen. It's not going to slow down. But it will if we order new ships with fuel oil engines. So I think our biggest takeaway, and hopefully most of the industry's biggest takeaway, is not to allow the shipyards to lure you in to order new ships with fuel oil engines. So much better to wait, and if you want to invest, buy a second-hand ship where you have much shorter payback time, and wait until real new technology is available. It will come, right? But it may take 7, 8, 10 years before you can both commercially and technically have an application for a small bulk carrier with bunkering infrastructure for whatever it is we're going to burn. But the biggest takeaway here for sure is do not order new buildings with fuel oil engines, please.
Okay, good point. Yeah, actually, it strikes me that when I'm looking for a new car, stay away from. Well, I've got a similar issue, whether it's electric or not, and that's an issue for the world. Christian, same question to you with regard to Norden.
Jens has been mentioned a few times that the industry needs to get together or get a better, get a better public perception. But I also do think that the industry we are sometimes led by the lowest denominator. And we have seen in some of these discussions that there are many different, let's call it ambitions and agendas among ship owners and the industry as such. But I really think it's time to go get together for those of us, all over here, of course, that have ambitious about the future in terms of environment, and hopefully we can make the voice. I don't think the industry we can get together to have one voice. I think shipping will always be have a bit blurry perception by the public because we are so fragmented. But I also think that in the future, our cargo clients, also the ones that are listening in here, you should maybe choose your partners not only because of freight rate, but hopefully on the basis of ESG rating. I mean, I think we are simply, there's too much 5-10 cents in this industry. There's too much an owner choose this business for $50 or $100. Please, I mean, look a little bit more, be a little bit more ambitious, everyone, and choose your partners a little bit more carefully. It's not the 5-10 cents or the $150 per day that makes it. Choose your partners with care. I mean, counterparty risk, of course, service, but eventually also the ESG rating of your partners. That will be the future. I think we are chartering about more than 1,000 ships per year. We choose the ships actually because the industry is as it is. 2/3 of all ships we charter, they are not performing as per the CP. That means you're renting an Audi and you get a Golf, and you basically have no way to claim it. So we have developed some algorithms so that we don't listen. Actually, we don't look at this speed consumption anymore. We predict better than the owner what your ship will perform instead of looking at the speed consumption figures. But in the future, we probably will have to choose from what ship has the smallest carbon footprint instead of what gives us the best economical return.
Sure.
But that will also demand that our clients, both the owners and the charters, look a little bit beyond the 5-10 cents, because this is going to cost something. We will chip in something, but our customers also have to chip in.
Okay, good. Yeah, and I'm sure clients are becoming more discerning. Bjorn, finally, this question to you on green shipping.
Yeah, I don't think the COVID-19 pandemic has changed anything in this respect. You have to remember that shipping was always very green. I mean, in terms of ton mile, it's a very green way of moving stuff, and it's been a huge catalyst for growth and prosperity through world trade, through globalization. So I think shipping has got a lot to be proud of in that respect. But because we are so big, we still emit to the tune of 1 billion tons of CO2 per year, or about 2.5% of all man-made CO2 emissions. And that will change. But shipping, that won't change for shipping alone. We will do it together with the rest of the world. In a sense, we're going into a decade or two which will be transformational for humanity, right? I mean, the last 170 years, we've all leveraged cheap fossil fuels to create enormous prosperity and growth, economic growth for the world. And that's led to progress in medicine, in literacy, in women's rights, etc., etc. So this leverage of fossil fuels have really brought a lot of good with it. But we are now at an urgent crisis where we need to change tack, and we have it within our reach to find solutions for the world and to change the game completely in the next 10 or 20 years. I believe in a nuclear renaissance, but whether it's renewable energy or if it's nuclear or if it's a combination of that, I think we can get to a place where we can leverage even cheaper, cleaner energy across all industries in the next decade or two. And I think it's going to change a lot for shipping. What the 1/3 of shipping that moves oil and coal will probably go away, but then we may double up in some other areas where cheap, clean, fast shipping is going to again be a catalyst for renewed growth and development across continents and people around the world. So I'm hugely optimistic about this transformation that's going to happen, not just in shipping, but in all industries.
Thank you, Bjorn. That's good to hear. And Guillermo, the view from Shield Services.
Yeah, we as transshipper operators, we care a lot about green operations, and being designers and operators, we are actually in an excellent position to connect owners and equipment manufacturer. So at the present time, we are doing some development. We are developing a technology with equipment manufacturers for electrical power recovery from our cranes when they are into operations. So the target that we set with this development is to optimize the generated power and do not waste it, optimizing the fuel consumption. So the target is to arrive to reduce as much as possible the fuel consumption. So even with the pandemic, we continue this process, we continue this development. So for what is concerning the technology, in our experience in this period here, we didn't slow down the process. For sure, in our market, the fuel consumption is very important for both sides, for green for sure, and we have to take care of it. in our position, as said, we can go forward with technology, and we will give our contribution as much as possible.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm gonna have another question before we move to some of our viewers' questions, and I'm going to have to speed things up a little bit, ask for faster answers if that's okay. It's a good sign. It means the discussion's been going well. Christian, will supply chains stay robust to prevent shortages of key raw materials in the future?
Yes.
Good.
I think it's shown extreme resilience. So now I'm saving you some time. Very simple answer.
Okay. No, sure. No, please. It doesn't have to be that brief. You know, this is about the pandemic, of course, but you know, there are so many other factors from Chinese demand to you know, trade wars and so on.
But we have seen in countries where they have been very hard hit, let's call it Brazil and India, we've seen that they've been determined to keep exporting, and countries have been determined to keep importing. So it's extremely robust, I think.
Good. Okay. Mats, your view?
I agree with Christian. Industry is amazingly adaptable, and you know, you shut down one supply source and another pops up, right? So I think many examples of that, and totally agree with Christian.
Excellent. And your take, Jens?
Well, you wanted to have a brief reply. I can give you. I think Christian and Matt are completely correct, so I share completely what they have said.
Yeah, that's good. I think maybe Guillermo's take on this could be interesting then.
Yeah, the supply chain is robust for sure if there are raw materials to be shipped. So the point is, with the demand and production stay robust. So logistics chains have robust backbone for definition, and you need only not 10 months of such a crisis to break it. So as I said before, if we see the volumes of 2020, yes, we saw a deflection for Asia and coal, but we are keeping the target on the bulk side. We are doing fine, working a little bit more, but keeping the performance. So yes, agree with my fellow panelists.
Good, excellent. Okay, and Bjorn, your final comments on this one.
Yeah, so I agree also. Shipping is super resilient, super adaptable, and very necessary. You know, supply chains are changing. The sort of binary supply chain we've seen in the last 2 years between China on the one hand and the developed world on the other hand, I think that's changing these years. You're gonna see a lot more intra-Asia trade. You're going to see a lot more manufacturing in economies like the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, etc. At the end of the day, you still have 2 billion people in Asia alone that needs to move out of poverty and into the middle class, and that's going to be driving development and growth, of which shipping will be a very important part for many years to come.
Okay, I'm going to get on to some viewers' questions and make them individual and again quite quick fire if I can. Mats, there's a question here from you from Indonesia. There are no entry barriers in dry bulk. Do you think this should change? Is there a value of consolidation of bulk ship owners and operators as done in containers?
I think the barriers should and could and will and are changing. I think there are entry barriers, certainly for responsible charters. They don't charter a ship from anybody. So I think it's a good question, and it calls for maybe highlighting the importance of owning and operating your own ships, right? When a charterer chooses a ship, you know, if he's using an operator who in turn is using 50 or 100 different owners, he doesn't really have a clue about the safety and quality and the maintenance and the captain that's on board that ship. But we, as an owner-operator, we control all of that ourselves, and we think that that is a good quality that certainly a shipper that's looking for a cargo contract, etc., should be looking for. But yeah, any way we can get the barriers up, we feel happy about, and you know, there's so much green talk, it's almost green overkill. I guess you should never say that, but forget the safety things, guys. Safety is also very, very important.
Yeah, good. Bjorn, there's a question for you here from India. What would you think is the future of marine trade from the Arctic zone and its effect on the marine industry? I don't. Maybe he's thinking about the the North Sea route. The North Passage and the Northwest Passage. That's for Bjorn.
Interesting question. Well, I hope that that climate change will not result in the Arctic ice disappearing, and through that the Northern Sea route will become navigable throughout the year. For me, shipping is a facilitator of trade and an accelerator of growth in various regions. I used to live in Greenland as a kid, and I visited there last year, and I would be very sad to see the Arctic become a trade lane for shipping. I hope that the Arctic ice stays strong and powerful for many decades to come.
Good. Okay. Guillermo, there's a question here for you. Why is our technology far behind other industries?
Well, because you need to it's a huge market, and everything is moving. Everyone is moving or try to move together. So the adoption of technology has to be, implemented at least all together, or find some leaders that will lead this transition. For sure, it's a huge market where technology is not easy and fast to adopt. So it's not something that we think to something today and then we include it in the new building the day after. So everything has to be planned and designed together, because all the equipment that we have on board, they have to work together. So it's something that needs some time. For sure, when you have a demand that we talked about green and so on, yes, this will push. But concerning our vessels, we started in the last designs were from 2010, and then we had in this 9-10 years 3 revisions of what we have on board, the kind of equipment that we have on board. So from our industry, for the transshippers, we have pretty every 2-3 years we update our technology, and we include new technologies, and whatever there is some new ideas, we try, we test, and we test excellent solutions for everything, monitoring and consuming and so ever. So from our perspective, there is not a slow implementation of technology.
Oh, good answer. Okay. Jens, I have a question here for you from Australia. Thank you for staying up late, Australia. Will the current WFH working from home mode for most companies worldwide accelerate the push for digital trading platform for both cargo and freight?
Well, that could well be, as we all know. I mean, there's a lot of digital trading platforms already in use. I mean, some of them are disappearing again. Some of them are relaunched. Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's a niche market. I somehow doubted that we are within the next 10 years that there will be one trading platform where all the operators, all the owners will basically source their business, or will give in their business and source their business from. I somehow doubt it, because I can still see a value in talking to customers directly, fine-tune the trade. I mean, for example, with our 43s, I mean, Well, it's, these ships are a little bit unique, and there's some of the charterers, who really love these ships because they can utilize the dead weight. It's tailor-made for their trade. Whether these guys will go through the platform whilst addressing us for the ship, I doubt it very much, but obviously is a trend, and nobody can rule it out, but I doubt it within the next 10 years that there is one platform, and it needs to be one platform, at least from my perspective, which if there would be two, then there would already be competition. So if one platform, maybe in 10 years, I will be out of the business then, because I still like to talk to people and I like the personal relationship, but maybe 10 years from now, yes, there could be.
Okay, thank you, Jens. And Christian, question for you. Under COVID-19, with limited ports permitting crew changes, how do you, as a charter of over 250 ships, balance the owner's crew change requirements versus successfully executing your commercial voyage?
It's now it's 330 ships, by the way.
So
we're operating, but that's okay.
the questioner.
It just makes the problem even bigger, actually.
Good.
So, no, we have certain markets where you have these inefficiencies, and in certain trades, it's not about the freight rate. Actually, it's not about how what you pay the ship, but actually, do they have crew? Do they have compliant crew on board that have not been on board more than 12 months, etc. So it's a big challenge, but I think we touched upon it. I think that is exactly what operators are doing. We're adapting. So we are finding ways and having good dialogues with various owners and help them in the crew changes and all these things. So we find ways. Good.
Okay. Well, look, I have plenty more questions, but we're just not going to be able to get to all of them because our 90 minutes, unbelievably, is nearly up, and I want each of you to have a chance to say a final word. And when you do, please, your final statements to everybody. But maybe one of the questions I was going to ask was, what will the new normal look like in 2021? So, okay, your final statements. But if anybody wants to make any predictions for how next year will be, please go ahead. And I'll start with Bjorn.
Well, I think 2021 we will find a solution to COVID-19. We will get past this. I want to spend this last minute perhaps just on repeating, the need for treatment of seafarers as key workers. We all really depend on this global supply chain that's called shipping. Whenever we put on clothes, whenever we flick a switch to turn on the lights, whenever we put gasoline in our car, whenever we eat something, chances are that lots of it has come by sea, right? And the only reason that this crew change hasn't been able to happen is because shipping continues to function despite we letting the people stay on board. And honestly, governments should be ashamed of taking that position. We need these people to go home to their families and to their commitments, and for their colleagues to come out on board ship and take over for their tour of duty. So one pitch for me was, to end this would be, don't forget to advocate seafarers as key workers. We need them to come through for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bjorn. Jens.
Yeah, Bjorn said it. I cannot add much to that on the crewing issues. I completely agree with what Bjorn said, because the crew is important. We need to support these guys on the ship, and we need to push governments into the right directions to offer us possibilities to do a proper crew change. On top of that, I'd say we all have a responsibility, and when markets open up again after COVID-21, I think what we all should take as lessons from this pandemic is that we need to work together. With all the competition we have in shipping, we need to find a way to align all our interests and to have shipping with another, I said that twice, but I think it's important with another perception also to the outside, do something, align our interest, and trying to be part of saving the nature and the planet. And I think that also includes charterers, bankers, everybody, insurers who are involved in the industry. We need to find a common way of approaching the challenges in 2021 and the years thereafter.
Good. Mats, your closing remark.
I hope and think that the new normal in 2021 will be that we make money. What we really need to do, right, to afford all this new technology and green initiatives. But I would also highlight that, you know, I think it's a negative development that IMO and some others seem to be going, where they only focus on the dead weight of the ships when they rate ships, right? You also need to look at the utilization of the ship. I mean, we are 90% laden. Look at you carry a lot more cargo during a year if you're 90% laden than if you're 50-50. And finally, I've said it before, but link the green stuff also to safety, and don't order new buildings because you won't get 25 years life out of them.
Good. Thank you, Mats. Guillermo, your closing remarks.
Yeah, we saw in this period here, in this pandemic period, that people are more careful, they are more cooperative, more organized, and also more patient. So we all have been hit by this pandemic, someone pretty badly. We all have experienced challenges, so unpleasant and bad moments. But this is actually the fastest way and the optimal way to learn fast and adapt to the situation. So in the new normal, we will, I think that we will bring all what we have learned in this past 10 months. I agree with Björn about seafarers as the key workers, especially thinking about the vaccine that seems to be ready by the next year. So as we are doing with the rapid test, sending rapid tests on board to ensure our crew safety, we will push to have our crew members and families vaccinated. We already set up a plan. We're already taking information about this. So this will be a tangible thing that we plan to do for the new normal.
Thank you, Guillermo. And the last word is with you, Christian.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I think since IBJ is the most famous supply chain magazine, I expect that there are many. You said that yourself, Ray. That there are many cargo charters and ship owners listening in there. Changes are only constant, and I'm sure all of us have been forced to accelerate these changes during COVID-19. We as service provider has no other choice than to adapt with you. And as we say in Norden, high tech, high touch. Yes, our business is being digitalized, but it means that we have more time to service you and create value together, actually. And then so for cargo clients and ship owners out there, I have 3 pointers. 1, please demand more from your transportation partners, demand better service. And 2, please look upon beyond the pennies on the freight rate. Look at the entire product you receive. And lastly, please hook up with your partners where you can shape the future, because the future will only become more and more volatile and more complex. So these were my 3 pleas to our clients.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you to Björn, Jens, Mats, Guillermo, and Christian again, and of course Captain Uni, who had all good intentions, and we'll be in touch with him again soon. I hope that all of our viewers found the webinar interesting. I think we had some good opinions and views about how the challenges have been met, and some valuable insights. Even knowing that Björn grew up in Greenland for a while and is looking forward to the nuclear renaissance. And thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Sonalia, Telestack, North Seaport, Bednav, Brooks Hotel, and Fleet Management. To all of the audience watching, thank you. When we go off screen, you will be asked for your feedback with a form on screen. So please let us have it, because that's how we aim to improve for the next time. And watch this space. We don't have any. This is the last webinar we have for this year. We don't have any plan for next year, but I'm sure we will, because maybe a little while before the world totally gets back to normal. Thank you for being with us, and until the next IBJ webinar, goodbye and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.